The Nechako Sturgeon Conservation Center would like to invite you to follow along with our programs virtually this year. We miss all of our volunteers, tours, and public events, but look forward to seeing you when it's safe to do so. This video captures the development of the 2020 juvenile Nechako white sturgeon at the NWSCC. This is a photo of a sturgeon egg, taken as a sample before the spawn to ensure the egg development is on track. Here you can see the germinal vesicle nearing the plasma membrane, which lets us know that the sturgeon is ripe and ready to spawn. This photo marks the beginning of the 2 years juvenile sturgeon will spend at the Conservation Center before they're released. In the last video, you saw how freshly spawned and fertilized sturgeon eggs are placed into incubation tubes to allow water circulation over the eggs until they're ready to hatch. It's important to ensure that the incubation tubes are clean and water is flowing through them properly without damaging the eggs. But after 7 to 10 days of constant care and cleaning, the sturgeon begin to hatch and flow over the spout of the incubation tubes into the shallow tanks below. The shallow tanks hold small balls of artificial substrate called bioballs. These help provide the sturgeon larvae with shelter as they develop. Sturgeon larvae are removed from the bioballs at 12 days post-hatch, in order to start being fed a microdiet. Sturgeon larvae are kept in the dark to reduce stress, and fed every 2 hours by hand until they're 40 days post-hatch. Sturgeon start feeding with a very fine microdiet, and are fed 8 different sizes of food between the time they hatch and the time they reach 1 gram in weight. Staff at the NWSCC work hard to make sure that the tanks are clean and the growing sturgeon have constant food that matches their growth period. Juvenile weight samples are taken every week to ensure that sturgeon are placed in appropriate size groupings as they develop from this to this. In the last video, you saw how wild spawn sturgeon eggs are collected on egg mats and brought back to the NWSCC to hatch. The wild spawn sturgeon eggs contribute to a greater genetic diversity of Nechako white sturgeon that will be released from the facility at 2 years old. From the time they hatch to the time they're released, juvenile sturgeon are separated into tanks that represent their family groupings. In this image, you can see 4 individual families separated into tanks where the sturgeon will continue to grow and develop until the time they're released. Since these sturgeon eggs are fertilized with a combination of every male's milt, juvenile sturgeon of the same mother are considered a family grouping. As the sturgeon grow from larvae to juveniles, they prepare for their release into the water they've imprinted on, where they will help to rebuild the population of Nechako white sturgeon. These juvenile sturgeon will contribute to years of research for not only their distinctive population, but their species as a whole. Thank you for supporting the Nechako Sturgeon Conservation Center.